Welcome to our review of The Last of Us, Episode 5. One thing I really liked is they made Sam deaf in the show and a little bit younger than in the game, which allowed his relationship with Ellie to be a little bit more of like a bigger sister, little brother situation.
Yeah, that was really nice. One thing I'm glad they gave us more understanding is why Kathleen was on this manhunt for Henry. She just kept focusing in on Henry, and I'm just like, okay, I know he's a collaborator, I know you're looking for him, but I just didn't understand just her solo focus on him. But you find out that Henry killed her brother, Michael. But he killed her to save his own brother, Sam. You understand why that conflict is happening and why she's on such a huge, hunt for him, because she wants revenge.
Speaking of that, I really like the parallel structure that they had going on. It's one thing I love in movies when we saw from Joel and Ellie their perspective, obviously, of coming to Kansas. But then you realize that Henry was on the run and saw them crash into Kansas the moment they got there, and actually have been following them from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big departure from the game, because in the game, they just meet by chance. Mm-hmm. I like this because we see more of Henry. They make him, like, in the game, he's more of a survivalist, just like Joel. He can fight, he can shoot. In this, he is more of a person who got by on his intellect, on his information gathering skills, his ability to play people by being a confidant to the Fedra and giving them information on the people who are trying to commit a revolution against them. And so I like that in this show, they make his strength different from Joel and Ellie's, which is more physical. Mm-hmm. But they also show that he can still do violence with his choices. Yeah. And I think it's more relatable too, because most of us in daily life are going to have to probably at some point choose someone we love over someone we don't. And I think that is maybe a little bit more relatable than the specific violent choices that maybe Joel and Ellie have to make in the show. Mm-hmm. So I like that they included that in there. And I like that they gave him a separate kind of skill set than Joel.
Yeah, for sure.
Using his skill set, he was able to come up with a whole plan on how to get out of Kansas. And then when he saw Joel fighting people off, he was like, that's the guy who's going to help it come to fruition.
Yep.
And it also just makes it good storytelling in that it's just not like they just meet these people randomly. There's a reason for everything in a good story.
Yeah. I so agree with that. And when they were trying to escape and they're down in the tunnels and they stumble upon this little community, these people are building a community in the tunnels, and it's this little learning center, it's this little play center all in one. Ellie and both Sam are like taking in, they're playing with the toys, they're playing soccer, and Ellie scores, and you just hear them just burst in laughter. And I love the scene where Henry and Joel look at each other and they're watching them play, and they have a full moment of like, this is nice for in this moment of time we can be joyful. We don't have to worry about the life that we are living. So I just love that they captured that same moment like that was in the game, in the show, and it just had the same feels.
And in the game, they actually escaped the town much earlier into their time together, and they go to find this sewer that people were living in, and eventually infected had overran. And so a lot of that stuff that happens in the tunnels was actually kind of in the game, but they repurposed it to be while they were still trying to escape the city. Speaking of them escaping the city, I like that in this, Fedra has just been overthrown 10 days ago by the time we get there, which is a departure from the game. Because the game is not really specified when they overthrew Fedra. You just knew that at some point this group of people, this settlement, had done so.
Yeah.
And so I like that they make it more recent, because then you understand their brutality, because this is a fresh wound for them. And we understand they were just rounding up the people who had helped Fedra along all these years.
One thing that I was missing so far with these episodes was a good combat scene. Like I love good action film. I love like just action in general. And so I'm like, okay, when is a good fight happening? Like, let me see more infected. Like, I need it. that sounds a lot, but it's action. And so the scene where they're, Henry and Sam and Joel and Ellie, they're made it up to are making it pretty far. They're out of the tunnels. They meet the sniper, and they take him down. And by this time, Kathleen and her guys are right up behind them, and they're bulldozing, trying to get closer to them. In the midst of that, they hit a truck. The truck falls down. It hits a ditch. it kind of like seeps down into the ground. The infected comes out from the tunnels, and it is like mayhem. I mean, it's so many of them, hundreds of them, and the soldiers are trying to like fend for their lives. Like, I just think that scene really gave the action junkie of me, you know, a good adrenaline rush, because I felt like it portrayed action from the game up until this point. Like, it gave me everything I felt like I was missing up until this point. So now when we move forward, I felt like it would be right on pace and what I was missing. And so I thought that was really good.
I like the entire stretch of them from, there's this part of the show where they think they've escaped and they're walking down this cul-de-sac and then someone starts shooting at them. In the game, that's just a random group of bandits and you have to fight them just to add some combat into it. Whereas in this, it is a elderly gentleman who, to me, reminded me of what Bill would have become if he never met Frank. And I don't know if that was intentional, but I think that that could be as deeply as they seem to be thinking into this. And he basically, then he forces Joel to end him. And then as Joel gets his sniper rifle, that's when Kathleen and all the rest of the people from the settlement come and they corner them into the cul-de-sac. She said something to me that I felt like was a big piece of foreshadowing, which was, this is what happens when you mess with fate. And she says this to Henry about Sam because she's saying, well, maybe Sam should have died. And I think that that sounds ruthless, but I think that if you know the story as it goes forward, if you play the games, there's a tie-in that shows that there might be sacrifices that have to be made in order to save humanity or kind of let things go the natural order, the way they're supposed to go, as opposed to putting your loved ones above all else. And that's, again, and time again, the meditation of what the show and the story of The Last of Us is really about, from the first game through the second, and possibly probably the third. Yeah.
A moment that I thought was really interesting about this episode is when you find out that Sam has gotten bitten. And so in the game, you don't really know how that happened. You just, the next morning, you just wake up and he is infected. So it's no understanding of when it happened. So not only did you see the combat scene, you saw that he got bitten, and you have this moment with him and Ellie, and you know, they already feel like a big bro and a big sister and a little brother. They already have that relationship going. And so when she tries to like cut herself and then, you know, use her blood to heal him, hoping, you know, because she is supposed to be that one to save humanity. And so you see her trying to be the hero that people are telling her that she is. I think that was really, just a really beautiful moment, because she's starting to like accept the responsibility that she has.
You know, they're tying up a lot of loose ends in the game that maybe you overlook because you're kind of like, this is great, but let me get back to fighting, you know? So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that they buried them in the end, because to me, that allows Joel some time to reflect and realize that, you know, Ellie has somehow snuck up and become to him what Sam is to Henry. And that's why he lingers there for a moment. She's like, come on, let's go. I think it's because he's having that moment of reflection and realize, like, dang, how'd I get here?
Yeah.
But that has been our review of The Last of Us Episode 5. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, like, comment, tell us, you know, what you think of the show. If there's any Easter eggs that you noticed, you know, we'd be interested to seeing that, predictions for the next episode.
Yeah.
Go ahead and watch our short films, our stories and series that we have going on this channel.
It's more to come.
But yes. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.